Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. This is episode 317. Thank you for tuning in. On this episode, we will be talking about the new Titans general manager and a few words that he said, the Titans president of football operations, and kind of observing something he said and making a few thoughts there. And, of course, Jacksonville coaching drama, some new additions to the coaching drama, along with some words that Dan Orvlosky said. And I'll preface that by saying, if you didn't hear those thoughts that he said, wow, is all I had to say when I heard those thoughts from Mr. Dan Orvlosky. Hey, he's definitely a pretty smart guy, but I don't know about what he recently said. Yikes. But we'll get into that and more. But, of course, we open up every episode with the Get Off Your Chest segment. In this episode, I'm just going to get off my chest the thoughts I have on the AFC and NFC championship games. Now, there is no AFC South team in either one of those games. Of course, obviously in the NFC, there can't be an AFC South team. But I just want to get my thoughts on who I have to win these games. We're going to start with the Commanders versus the Eagles. Now, both of these teams have won a game against each other this year, and this is the third battle, a.k.a. the rubber match. And in this game, of course, you have Jaden Daniels, the high-flying Commanders offense that just torched the Lions defense versus the Eagles, Saquon Barkley running the football over and over and over and over again. Jalen Hurts making a few plays in the air with his legs. And that physical defense. Now, in this game, if I have to pick one team, I'm definitely going to roll with the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Carter up front is a monster. He is a created player on Madden that you just take and dominate and win a bunch of games on in franchise mode. He is that type of player. So I think he dominates up front. I think the Eagles defense brings down the Commanders offense just a little bit. I think the Eagles offense gets it going in the running game and does what they need to do. I mean, you saw Jahmyr Gibbs actually running the football pretty doggone well against the Commanders, and the Eagles have just as physical and as big an offensive line. Yeah. And they have a quarterback that really doesn't turn the ball over. So that's a recipe for winning football games right there. I have the Eagles beating the Commanders. Probably be a close game, but I still think the Eagles will win that game. Now let's flip it over to the other division, the other conference, the AFC. You've got the Buffalo Bills going against the Kansas City Chiefs for what seems to be like the 11th time they faced each other. I just was looking at my calculations to my left. Yeah, okay, cool. 11th time they'll be facing each other. And of course you have Josh Allen and you have Patrick Mahomes. Now, it's set up for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to win this game. Do I think the Bills will give them a game? Yes, definitely. But I do believe that the running game gets going for the Chiefs in this game, and that is the difference. And they win this game and go on to the Super Bowl to face the Philadelphia Eagles and try to three-peat as NFL champions. It'll be insane if that actually happens. I know there are some people in media hoping to see maybe another team besides Kansas City there, but hey, to be the champs, you have to beat the champs. And no one has seemed to figure that out just yet. So, recap, I got the Eagles versus Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Let's see if it turns out to be right. Speaking of turning out to be right, let's see about these Tennessee Titans. Now, the Tennessee Titans decided to fire Ray Carthon as general manager. I'm pretty sure everyone knows that by now. And they hired a new general manager, went on a search, and they came upon the assistant GM in Kansas City, Mike Borganzi. Now, for those that aren't aware, Mike Borganzi and Chad Brinker, who is the Titans president of football operations, actually worked together on the L'Jarius Sneed trade, by the way. So there was familiarity between the two, and they made it official with bringing in Mike Borganzi as the new general manager to replace Ran Carthon. Now, when this was first announced, of course, it first announced that Ran Carthon got fired. It was announced that, Chad Brinker would have all the power, and he would have the power of the final say of the 53 and things like that. And that general manager, essentially, people were wondering, what does the general manager do at that point? Well, I found these comments pretty interesting when I listened to what the general manager says at his press conference, which happened the 22nd, which was a Wednesday. Mike Borganzi said he will have full authority over the free agency process. He said he will pick the players, and it will be a partnership with Chad Brinker. You know what magical word I seem to be thinking of? That'd be collaboration. Now, for those that don't know, that magical word was used when Ran Carthon was here with him, Brian Callahan, Chad Brinker. Anyone that was making decisions, it was collaboration. And we saw what collaboration happened with collaboration. So I will say, just keep an eye on what's going on. That's an interesting word to use. Or partnership, it's an interesting word to use, considering what's happened the last few years in terms of general manager, head coach connection with the Tennessee Titans. Just something to watch. I'm not saying it's going to go bad or anything like that. I'm just saying that it's something to watch. And also, that was pretty interesting. But also, I want to point out a few things that Chad Brinker, who is the Titans president of football operations, said. One of these things is he said he did not ask for control of the roster. It is what the owner wanted, basically. So Brinker stated that he did not ask for full control of the roster at all. It's that the owner of the team, Amy Adams Strunk, is what she wanted for him. So just keep that in mind, people. He didn't necessarily ask for that. So, it gets me back to the thoughts of, when I know people didn't have the greatest feelings when Ran Carthon got released from his duties. And some felt that, maybe Chad Brinker had stepped in and stepped on some toes. I didn't think necessarily all of that. But essentially, he's kind of clearing the air just a little bit there and saying, hey, it wasn't my decision. So there we go. And then also one other thing that he said is, we won't pass on a generational talent with the first pick in the NFL draft. We are doing our homework on all the prospects, including quarterbacks. That means Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. So not only are there Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward there, but there's also a guy named Travis Hunter there with the first overall pick. Just a thought. Now, it's not saying they're going to pick him. No, it's not saying that at all. But he did say they will not pass on a generational talent. Now, it just makes you wonder, do they think Shedeur? Do they think Cam's a generational talent? Do they think Travis Hunter above all the generational talent? Do they think Abdul Carter, defensive end from Penn State, is a generational talent? That we don't know. But what we do know is we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to dig into this Jacksonville Jaguars coaching situation. It appeared to be one way, but now it is flipped to be another. We'll be right back on Touring the AFC South.
EDO Beard Butter and EDO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MP AFC 10, you can get 10% off of these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, and we are back on touring the AFC South. Like I mentioned before the commercial break, drama in the Jacksonville coaching search. Now, on the last episode, I mentioned there was 3 candidates. There was defensive coordinator for the Raiders, Patrick Graham. There was former Jets head coach Robert Saleh, and there was Liam Cohen, who was the Tampa Bay Bucks offensive coordinator this past season. Now, those 3 are in-person candidates, basically going to have in-person interviews, is what it was mentioned by the Jaguars and mentioned by, a lot of media outlets, Interact Report, places like that. Now, of course, from Wednesday, it's mentioned that Liam Cohen backed out of the job and he's going to become one of the highest paid assistants in the NFL by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he withdraws from basically withdraws from the coaching search, is what it was stated. Then also, same day, Trent Baalke, general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, is, he parts ways with the organization, gets fired, however you want to put it. He's not with the organization anymore. Then on Thursday, today when we're recording, Liam Cohen is in talks with the Jaguars again. Now, of course, he hasn't signed any agreement apparently, and basically, even if he was to sign it, he still could negotiate to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars if he wanted to be. But I just find it really interesting that it just appears he was talking to them the entire time all along, that he never really broke talks, that maybe the reports of him breaking talks weren't necessarily the truest talks. Just a thought there. And maybe one of his conditions to be a coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars was that Trent Baalke was not there. Now, for those that don't know Trent Baalke's history, he's hired a few coaches before. He was out in San Francisco with the 49ers, Brian Jim Harbaugh, Jim Tomsula after, him and Harbaugh butted heads, and also Chip Kelly. 2 of those 3 didn't work out, and of course the job didn't work out either when Trent Baalke was let go from the 49ers. Brought him to the Jaguars. He brings in Urban Meyer. Whew. Then replace him with Doug Peterson. That works a couple years. Nah, doesn't work anymore. So let him go, but yet he's still there as a part of the organization. And he, for all intents and purposes, it would seem like he was going to be a part of this new regime with whatever coach they hired. So I would say for Jacksonville fans, I know they're elated that he is not going to be a part of the next crew, I'd say, running the Jaguars organization for Shad Khan, the owner. However, it's going to be interesting that this is happening so late in the process that you're looking for a general manager along with the head coach, because usually you hire a general manager, then you get a head coach. But also we have to remember this is Jacksonville we are talking about. Now, 2 teams in this division have kind of done things a little bit differently, and that would be Tennessee. Of course, they've kind of had a little bit of going back and forth between the firing of GM and the firing of head coach, firing of GM, firing of head coach. And in Jacksonville, seems like kind of hanging on to people a little bit too long sometimes. Maybe Urban Meyer, they should have fired him after the incident that happened during his first year. But he hung around. Then you keep Trent Baalke despite some of the things that are talked about there. And then you're going to keep him with a new head coach. It just seemed kind of like they do things their own way, but they don't necessarily work out for them in their own way. But either way it goes, they'll have a new general manager. They'll have a new head coach because Trent Baalke's not there, and it could be Liam Cohen. I just wonder who's doing the talking to the new potential head coach. Now, I would say this. They did say the new potential head coach would be reporting to Shad Khan, so maybe Shad Khan is doing all the negotiating too and trying to find a head coach, which would kind of go along the road of Jerry Jones, which Jerry Jones has his hands in everything in Dallas, including naming the new head coach and being the general manager and things like that. So, while I wouldn't advise it, maybe he's trying to go along the route of Jerry Jones. Yikes. But, of course, like I mentioned, there was a couple other names in this coaching search, and there could be more added to it, like, potentially a Joe Brady with the Buffalo Bills, potentially a Cliff Kingsbury with the Washington Commanders as well. We'll see. But there's probably some more names that will be added to this search, but I just find it quite interesting that, they weren't, but were talking in terms of Liam Cohen. Did they give him like the text to say, hey, big head? Did they just say that once they fired Trent Baalke, or did they just never stop talking at all? That double secret talk that they probably had, the double secret talk where you're off in the room and you're supposed to be talking to somebody, but you're still talking to them anyway. Maybe this would happen. I don't know, but it just seems a little strange and a little off. Maybe Liam Cohen becomes the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know Jaguars fans, based off the first three names, were very high on him as wanting him to be the head coach. And of course, like I mentioned in the previous episode, Trevor Lawrence is involved in the coaching search. So, or being consulted from what I've heard on all reports. So with that being said, going to be interesting to watch and see what happens. Boy, oh boy, Jacksonville, who will get that head coaching job? Only time will tell. And as far as GM job, who knows? Maybe they go after the Kansas City tree again, like the Titans did. Maybe they go to a total different area. Who knows? It's just going to be interesting to watch and see. But, the biggest thing I would suggest for Jacksonville, if they're going to go after a general manager, look at an organization that has stability and is built up and drafted players well and paid players as well. Hello, Baltimore. Go look at somebody in that organization. Kansas City, yes. Go look at somebody in that one. Maybe go look at somebody in Buffalo's organization. They seem to have built something around Josh Allen that is always successful. And maybe it's not all just Josh Allen, but I would say, not necessarily the type of talent as the Chiefs and the Ravens. But I digress. I know people will argue with me on that one. But anyway, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And, speaking of Trevor Lawrence, there were some comments made by Mr. Dan Orvlosky of ESPN. Now, I will tell you, I don't want to get my podcast yanked off the air by airing ESPN comments and stuff like that on here, but I will tell you what he said. But after the commercial break on touring the AFC South. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.com. garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business. All right, and we are back on touring the AFC South. And like I mentioned before the commercial break, yes, there were some comments made by Mr. Dan Orvlosky. No, I will not be airing those comments on this show because, hey, this gets aired on other different places, and the ESPN sees that they might jack my show, and I don't want that. So I will tell you what Mr. Dan Orvlosky said when talking on First Take about the Titans and the number 1 pick. Here is what he said. If I were the Titans, I would call the Jaguars to try and trade for Trevor Lawrence. Now, that's just the first part of what he said. If I were Trevor Lawrence, I would want to get the heck out of Jacksonville. I'm going to repeat that again. Yes, you didn't hear something that I just concocted. This is actually something that Dan Orvlosky said. If you don't believe me, go to Twitter, type in Dan Orvlosky, Trevor Lawrence. You'll find it there. But here it goes. Again, if I were the Titans, I would call the Jaguars to try to trade for Trevor Lawrence. If I were Trevor Lawrence, I would want to get the heck out of Jacksonville. Now, one part of this I could potentially understand, maybe wanting to get the heck out of Jacksonville, because, unfortunately, organization doesn't necessarily seem the most stable at that right now. And even though they did pay him, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's all, just the model of consistency not there. Now, it could come with a new head coach and a new GM. So, I'm not saying it can't happen. But, that's something that was interesting, that he put out there about Trevor Lawrence. I mean, we don't know if Trevor Lawrence is thinking that or not. We're just putting it out there. That's all. That's all we're doing. But it would be interesting. I don't know what number of teams would trade for him, especially with that ginormous contract that he has right now that pays him on average a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. So keep that in mind. But, would I trade for him? No, because that would be some serious dough to be paid for, because that extension hasn't kicked in yet, by the way, for Trevor Lawrence. It's going to kick in really, really soon. But, yeah, that's just my thoughts there on one part of what he said. But let's dive into the other part. If I were the Titans, I would call the Jaguars to try to trade for Trevor Lawrence. So basically what you're telling me is that you believe that Trevor Lawrence is ready and better than Cam Ward and then Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Now, while I understand that, maybe he is to some, maybe he isn't to others. But what I will say is you also got to think about that hefty contract that he'd be bringing to the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Tennessee Titans have not been known to pay a top 5 quarterback salary. They really haven't been known to do that. What they have been known for is bringing in rookie quarterbacks and allowing them to, try to stand up and play or fall down and go to another team. You have a Marcus Mariota, you have a Jake Locker. I know plenty of people remember that name. You have a Zach Mettenberger. Yeah, I'm going way back in the Wayback Machine for that one. But, they haven't really been known to pay top 5 quarterback money. So in that aspect, why would they pay for a top 5 quarterback contract, but not top 5 quarterback production or trade for it? Nah. I don't see that one happening. Maybe Dan didn't get enough coffee that day or something, but boy, oh boy, that was a hot take and a half right there, Mr. Orvlosky, and I got much respect for you. But that was a top 5 hot take for me. I guess in 2025, I can't say it's a top 5 hot take, but a hot take. But that was a serious hot take right there. That the Titans should call the Jaguars trade. And if they're doing that, that means the Titans are getting rid of some pieces as well. And can, over his career so far, Trevor Lawrence hadn't shown that he can basically carry a team like that. So no, that would not be a good idea. Not in my opinion, not at all. Titans go get you with your first round pick what you believe you should go get and what you believe you deserve on this team, which it'll be interesting just to see again how Mike Borganzi and Chad Brinker build this team. Of course, they spend a lot of money this past offseason. Maybe they'll spend more money or trade pieces again this offseason. We'll see what happens. We don't know. But between the Jaguars and the Titans, there are definitely a lot of things going on when it comes to the offseason. It comes to trying to either get better or get some pieces in place. Well, we have reached the end of the show. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton 82 on the artist formerly known as Twitter. And you can also find me on Instagram and Threads at THA, not THE, _general_NP. Touring the AFC South on all listening platforms as well, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. We are also on the Mike Patton Podcast Network on YouTube as well, so you can see my bright smiling face. I want to thank you all for tuning into this episode of Touring the AFC South. We are out. Peace.